Hey guys, coming as me another classic movie for guys. Now, this movie we're reviewing, I left this for one of the last ones because it was one of the movies I was most looking forward to. Plus, it was very long. As I told you guys, I wanted to leave like the 3 hour plus movies for the last four, and I've heard amazing things about this movie. If you guys know, last year I watched The Godfather. I reviewed The Godfather, and you guys can check out that review. And I really like The Godfather. I really loved it. I think it's a great movie. It's a masterpiece. But many people say that The Godfather Part 2 is better, and I was just thinking, how can they top it? Like, seriously, how can they top The Godfather? It doesn't seem like a movie you can top. It didn't even seem like a movie that really needed a sequel. However, after watching I watched, of course, the movie when you're reviewing is the 1974 crime drama, The Godfather Part 2. And after watching The Godfather Part 2, they most absolutely topped it. The Godfather Part 2 might be my favorite sequel of all time. Honestly, guys, I'm being honest. It might be my favorite sequel of all time. There's so much to love about this movie. It's so much better than the first movie for so many reasons, and there's so much I love about it. Let's get to the plot, because we technically have two plots in this movie. There's two different things going on. The first part of the movie, the main plot is basically Michael Corleone. It takes place in 1958 to 1960. Basically, Michael Corleone, as we know at the end of the first Godfather, spoilers in case you haven't seen the first Godfather, he, of course, is now basically in line to be the Don of the crime family. He's, going to be the Don of the crime family, and he doesn't really want to do it, but he knows he has to do it, and basically he's trying to, help out his family, because his family have a lot of problems as well, and, he's trying to balance it all out, but then chaos strikes once an attack on his family happens, and he's almost killed, and basically he has to find who attacked his family and who basically is, responsible for this, and track them down and basically get them killed, and that basically is a plot of Michael's storyline. The other storyline we have going on, which I really do like, takes place in 1900 to 1941, basically giving us the backstory of Vito Corleone, how he became how he became as rich as he was, how he became the Don, and kind of like the struggles he had to go through in his life, and that basically is a plot of The Godfather Part 2. And as I said, I love this movie so much more, and that should tell you why. Just the plot in general should tell you why I love it so much more than the first one. Now, let's first get to the acting in this movie, because the acting from everyone is amazing. Everyone gives an incredible performance. There's not one person in this movie that I think gave a bad performance. I think everyone really killed it. However, Al Pacino, this is Al Pacino's best performance by far. I mean, his character, Michael Corleone, the thing I love about his character is that if you look at him in the first one, he wanted nothing to do with this family. He didn't want to be a part of it. He wasn't even interested in becoming the Don of the family. He didn't want to do it. Remember, he left them for the Marines, and now you kind of see that he's in this position now where he's basically forced to become the Don, and he doesn't really want to, and you see the struggle that his character has, and how much, stress this has on him, and there's a lot of things going on in his life. His wife is pregnant with a baby, his family, his brother's, wife and his sister's husband, they're having problems, and they want him to help them out. There's just so much going on with this character, and you really see that in his performance. He gave an incredible performance in the movie. There are so many fantastic lines from him, and I just loved everything going on with this character. He was just incredible. The sacrifices he has to make, the transformation he has in this movie is also incredible, and he really did a fantastic job, I have to say. Now, of course, the other part of this movie does focus on Vito Corleone, and it's not played by Marlon Brando. They did want Marlon Brando back for a few scenes, but he didn't come back. Instead, we have Robert De Niro playing Vito Corleone, who I think was the perfect person to play the character of Vito, show his backstory. It really makes us care more about Vito. We pretty much see everything that we need to. The whole point of this is kind of to connect the dots from the first movie to, from what happened before the first movie to the first movie. And I thought that was really cool the way they do that. They really make you care about his character more. For example, they show, the struggles he had with, his wife. They show what he had to do to get him to be the Don and things like that. It's really incredible stuff, and he really did a fantastic job. And the thing I was a little bit worried about is because he's playing a different character. The thing I was worried about is that it wouldn't seem like, because it's played by a different actor, I wasn't sure if it was going to seem like Vito, but no, Robert De Niro perfectly seemed like a younger Vito. He did a fantastic job, and he really killed in this role. He was absolutely fantastic. Pitch perfect casting, just pitch perfect casting. He was amazing in this movie. Um, Robert Duvall was also really great as Tom Hagen, basically Michael's right-hand man. He's reprising his role, of course, from the first movie, and he did a fantastic job, too. He definitely had some really great scenes. However, I have to say that one of the things this movie did very well was Diane Keaton as Kay. They made me love her character so much more in this movie. It's not that I didn't like her character in the first movie, it's just this movie, they did so much more with her, and I really loved it, because what I love about her character is that she necessarily doesn't want to be involved with this life. She doesn't really want it. She doesn't even want, she doesn't like that Michael's in it. She kind of wants to focus on starting a family and that kind of thing. But she knows that this is what Michael's involved in, and because she loves him so much, that's why she's stuck in this. And I love that with her character, and the chemistry between these two is great. There is one scene with them toward the end. Oh my god, it almost had me in tears, guys. It's an incredible scene. I also think Diane Keaton gave the best performance for her career in this movie. She was incredible, and just there are so many great scenes with her character. She was amazing. John Cazale was also great as Frito Corleone. There's a fantastic twist with this character that I don't want to get into, but he was incredible. And also Talia Shire, how you pronounce it, as Connie was also great. She did a great job. You see the struggle that, she's going through, and she wants Michael to help her, but it's just so much for him, and she really adds to her subplot in the movie. I thought was really great, and the bonding between them, you still see them as a family. The bonding between the Corleones, it's definitely not as strong as the first one, because obviously they just lost Vito. It's not the strongest. They're in the process of, kind of moving on, and I like seeing that. You really do see the chemistry between them all, and it really is fantastic, I have to say. They all were great. And also, Lee Strasberg and both Michael V. Gasso both play fantastic villains. They are basically the main antagonists of the movie, and they really kill it. They're very threatening, and they did a great job of that. For the most part, everyone did an amazing job, and I really can't think of anyone that gave that performance in this movie. I would talk about other people, but if I would, I'd be here all day, because there are just so many characters in this movie, and just everyone killed it. Everyone gave an amazing performance. Really, they did. So, the directing by Francis Ford Coppola obviously is great. He did a fantastic job directing this movie, but he did what he could to top the first movie, and I like that he tried to do that. He told a bigger story. The movie itself feels bigger. The tone is great. It's a very sad tone, though, I have to say. A very sad tone. It's a very, much more somber tone, and he did a great job directing it, definitely, and that was something I definitely really love. Now, the other thing I liked is that you would say, well, how does this work as two movies? The thing is, it just feels like it needs to be in there. Vito's story just makes, I think, us care about the characters so much more. Not just Vito's character, but Michael's character, just every single Corleone you can think of. It makes us see why they're important, why we should care about them, why, what this family has been through, and that's something I think is fantastic. Now, the screenplay to this movie is, again, so much better than the first movie. There's so much more to it. Honestly, there is a lot more to it, and I know you guys just like, well, that doesn't usually work when it tries to be bigger and better. This is a movie where, yeah, they did need more to do. Right from the start, this is a bigger movie. I mean, there's so much to love about it. There are the scenes between, there are the scenes where we're learning more about Vito's past, and it makes us care more about him as a character, which I thought was phenomenal. I love that they did that, and it made me care more about him as a character. And the stories as well are just fantastic. They're so interesting. I was into it the whole time, and I thought the stories this time were a lot more grasping, because instead of just focusing on the five families like the first one did, and it's not that the first one wasn't grasping. The first one was amazing. I mean, they focused on these five families and who's going to become, The Next Dawn. That kind of was what the first movie was. This is more like, the struggles that they have to go through, and that, even though they thought it was over, it's not over. And I just love seeing that. I like seeing that this isn't a perfect family either. They go through struggles. They go through problems. They're a normal family, but they just happen to be part of this crime business, and they're kind of stuck there, and there's nothing they can do about it. And I thought the way they handled all that was fantastic, I have to say. I thought the screenplay was just so great, I have to say. There are some fantastic twists in the film that I will get into when we get into spoilers, because obviously this is a movie where you just have to talk about spoilers. Honestly, I don't think you can talk about this movie without talking about spoilers. It's just, it's not possible. I think this is a movie that you need to talk about spoilers in order to in order to actually, do a good review of this movie. You just have to. It honestly, you have to. And I think they did a really great job with that, definitely. The flashbacks, as I said, were great, and I definitely thought that was really great. I definitely really love that, and it's just so much more of a complex story. And also, in so many movies, when they do the technique of a prequel and a sequel, it doesn't feel, it feels, it feels convoluted, and it doesn't work, and it just feels forced. This movie, I think we really did need that, though. I really do think we needed both of that, and I thought that was really great. They do also a really good job with the prequel of getting from point A to point B. That's something, as I said before, that they do a very good job with, and I really did like that. And the emotion, the chaos his family goes through is just fantastic, definitely. It really helps us connect with them more, and that's something I thought was really great. We saw in the first one they did have some losses, and again in this, there are some losses, there are some hardships, there are some betrayals even in this one. This movie ends very sad, and honestly, it needed to. It couldn't have had a happy ending. It's not that kind of movie. This series has always been a depressing series. It's not something that's happy, and I like that this shows that this family, while they try to be a normal family, it's just nothing right, nothing can go, right for them when they've chosen this path basically in life. And this movie is just, it's filled with tension from the beginning. At once that attack happens, you know that there's gonna be tension, and the whole movie, it feels like we're just building up to something. And we're building up to the entire last hour of the movie, at least in the present and in the flashbacks as well. It's just crazy, crazy payoff that was incredible. It's incredibly sad. And there were some scenes that had me in tears, honestly. There were a couple scenes. The most scene in particular, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's this scene between Diane Keaton, there's this scene between Kay and Michael. It had me almost in tears. I mean, it was so sad, and they did it perfectly, definitely. I thought that was fantastic. The ending as well has to be one of the most depressing endings in film I think I've ever seen. Honestly, films just don't get more depressing than the way this ends. Really, it doesn't. The cinematography, oh my god, it looks beautiful. I mean, the cinematography of the first one was great, but something I love is how different the styles of the two films are. Now, you might not see a difference, but I kind of did. The flashbacks do look slightly older than the present does, and I thought that was really great the way they handled that, because it would get confusing, honestly. There were a few times where I was like, okay, are we in the present or are we in the past? But then, once I got into it, I'm like, okay, this is the past, this is the present. And I thought they did a really great job with that. I don't know if they actually filmed in Italy. I think they did, but all the scenes that are in Sicily, all those scenes look beautiful. It looks like they actually filmed there, and it just looks fantastic. It really does. And they did a great job making it look as real and as beautiful as possible. Really, they did. Now, the score, obviously, is one of the best scores ever. Like, you could just play the first three notes, and I know that it was the Godfather. Just play the da-da-da-da, just play that. I know it was the Godfather. That's how iconic the score is. It's one of the best scores of all time, and it will always be one of the best scores of all time. Honestly, it will be, and I think that's great. I don't know if they had a bigger budget to this movie, but it definitely seemed like they did, because there were a lot more they did with, like, costumes and things like that. I'm sure they had a big budget to the first one, but this one, it just seemed like the budget was bigger. I don't know if it was just that the story was richer, which it was. It just seemed like the budget was a lot bigger than the first one was, which is great, because if that's true, it definitely makes sense, because, it felt like a much richer, complex, the costumes as well looked amazing. Everything looked fantastic. And the scenes that take place in the 1900s, it looks like the 1900s. Scenes that take place in the 1950s, it looks like 1950s. They did a really good job with that. I was definitely very happy about that. Now, the editing style as well might be one of my favorite editing styles of all time. The way they intercut between Vito and Michael, very fascinating stuff. I mean, usually they'll show like Michael doing a pose and then they'll have Vito in that same exact pose. It was really cool editing that they do, and I love when movies do that because it keeps you invested, it keeps you into the story, and that's something I thought was fantastic. I absolutely love that. Definitely, I thought that was great. Now, also, this movie is 3 hours long, 3 hours and 22 minutes. It's over 3 hours. I was into it the whole time. It felt like an hour to me. I mean, I couldn't believe how fast this was going. This is one of those movies where you watch it, it doesn't feel like time is passing. It just feels like you're watching this movie, you know? It just feels like you're watching, and there's a point where you forget you're watching a movie. You connect so well with this family, and you care so much about what's going on, you forget these are just characters in a movie. I mean, honestly, the way they portray these characters, they seem like real people, and that's because there were families like this, and I think it's fantastic the way they did that. I love that, and it just keeps you invested. Again, as I said before, I love it when films beg you to keep watching, and this is one of those movies that just begs you to, honestly. I think it's fantastic that they did that, and I love that. And when I was like an hour into this movie, I'm like, what? I thought it was only 30 minutes. Like, that's how much I was into it. It felt like, and then we got to 2 hours, it felt like 40 minutes, and, so on and so forth. Again, the movie only felt like an hour to me. That's how much I was in it to it, and I love that. Honestly, it's a 3-hour movie, but I was totally into it. It really shows that when you have a great story, complex characters, and just a fantastic movie overall, it doesn't matter how long it is, as long as you can tell a great story. And the movie needed to be 2 hours in order for them, 3 hours in order for them to tell this story. It just had to be as long as it was. It honestly had to be, because again, it's two movies wrapped in one. Really, that really is what it is, and I think that's fantastic. So, overall, this is probably my favorite sequel of all time. I absolutely love it. There's so much more to love about this movie. It deepens the characters. It tells a much more complex story than the first one. And now I am going to get into spoilers because I need to talk about spoilers for this movie. This is a movie where you have to talk about spoilers. I can't talk about The Godfather Part 2 and not talk about all the amazing twists that happened in this movie. How sad things ended. If you guys have not seen Godfather Part 2, watch it right now, okay? If you've seen The Godfather, you need to watch Godfather Part 2 because I'm sure you love The Godfather, but in my opinion, this is just so much better than The Godfather. Not that I don't like The Godfather, I really do. I do have to tell you guys, though, I'm not really looking forward to watching the third one. After this, I don't really want to see it, because I know it's going to be very sad, and I know a lot of people say it's very disappointing, but let's get into it. So I think the first spoiler I really want to get into is when we realize that it wasn't, Pentageli that attacked them. It was instead Hyman Roth, and I thought that was an incredible twist. I mean, the way that Michael has allegiance to him and then he just betrayed him was great. And then when we realized that Frito is working with him, I mean, there's that classic scene where Michael's just like, I knew it was you. You broke my heart. It's an incredible scene, and I love that scene because here's the thing. Why do I think Frito betrayed Michael? Frito had things going on in his life. Michael didn't help him out, and I think Frito just felt like he wanted to do something, and I think he just took it out by doing that. That's why he did that. It was a very sad scene, but you knew, and then the scene, of course, where Michael disowns him, I mean, of course, it's really sad. It's really sad to see him where he's like, you mean nothing to me now, you're nothing, I'm disowning you. It's such a sad scene, but you do kind of see why Michael's doing it, but at the same time, you feel really bad for Frito, and that's something I love. There are so many scenes in the movie like that. However, my favorite scene in this movie by far is the scene between Kay and Michael when we realize that Kay didn't have a miscarriage. She instead had an abortion, and that's because she just can't take Michael anymore. She can't take him being the Don. She can't take this Cecily thing going on. But at the same time, the thing I love about that scene is that even though obviously we're pissed at her for doing this, and Michael's pissed at her, you do understand what she's saying. She doesn't want this crime life. She wants to get away from it. And then you're just thinking, you realize in that moment that Michael doesn't really love her, honestly. I kind of thought that Michael honestly just married her to get away from the crime life. That kind of is what I think, because he never wanted to be involved with it, and now he is involved with it. I think he's realizing at this moment that he does not actually love her. He's married this woman that he doesn't love, and has just married her so he can get away from basically what was inevitably going to come back to haunt him, and now I think he's realizing that at that moment. I think it's an incredible scene, and just both performances in that scene. feels so human, and that's something I love about that scene. No one's right or wrong there. They're just humans. They've made bad mistakes, and they've done things that are wrong, and they're both really pissed at each other, and I like that their divorce was just something that had to happen. They couldn't live with each other anymore. And you know that they don't get a divorce in this movie, but you know it's gonna happen. And of course, there's that really sad scene where she comes to get her kids, and Michael just slams the door in her face. He wants nothing to do with her. And it's probably just because the stress he's gone through. It's really, really heartbreaking stuff, guys. I mean, really sad stuff. I did like how Michael and Connie got closer. She really seemed to be the only person that stuck by his side the whole time. And I think it's because she understood what he was doing. She understood why he had to do this and what this, entailed. I think that really is what that had to do with. And then, of course, after Carmela dies, that's when things just keep getting sadder and sadder. Because, of course, Carmela dies. And I knew someone was going to die in this movie. I thought Carmela was going to be the only death. Holy shit, was I wrong. I mean, this is The Godfather. Obviously, there are going to be more deaths. When Hyman died, I knew he was going to die. He was the main villain in the movie. I knew that was going to happen. But then when Pentagilli slit his wrists, I mean, I was like, wow, that's far. But then, of course, there's the pinnacle scene where Frito dies, and I was just like, holy shit, I couldn't believe that they actually killed Frito. But again, I understand why. He basically had to die for what he did. I mean, Michael obviously wasn't going to forgive him. He just knew he wasn't going to. And you knew that Michael was obviously not going to let him live. So he had to kill Frito. And it's definitely something that I think Michael's going to regret in the third movie. But for right now, he killed him. And the thing I love also in the flashbacks is the final scene is basically us seeing how the events of the first movie happened, basically. Michael went to the Marine Corps, and basically nobody liked it except for Frito. He was the only brother supportive, and it's such a sad scene because you see that Frito really was supportive of his brother, but because of one bad decision he made, his brother completely betrayed him, and it's really sad to see. And the thing I love is that if they were to show that scene before the events of this movie, it would not have been as effective, and that's something I think is fantastic. It was when they chose to show the flashbacks, especially that one. That is the one scene that I think is one of the most, one of the scenes that just resonates with you. And then, of course, there's that really sad scene where he just sits, where Michael's just sitting by the lake, and he's kind of just contemplating what he's doing. And to me, that kind of seemed like he was just taking a second and thinking, what the hell have I done? I've lost everyone. I'm all alone. All I have is my kids, and that's it. And that's how the movie ended. And I thought that was the perfect way for it to end. Now, do I necessarily want a third? Would I necessarily want to see the third one? No, I'm not looking forward to watching part 3. I know it's going to be really sad. And plus, I heard Michael's character, changes completely in that movie. So I'm not looking forward to it. I am going to watch it next year, but I'm not looking forward to it at all. And honestly, the way this movie ended, I thought was perfect because it shows that this family will never be the same way again. They're gonna be in this depressive state for the rest of their life. They're gonna be in this, separate. It's really sad, and it's none of their fault. It's really not. It's just the whole life that they've been involved in. It's the whole Cecily life they've been involved in. Like Kay said, he needs to end it, and no one wants to end it. It's just something they're involved in. They're never gonna be able to get out of, and I think that was just the perfect ending to this movie. So overall, guys, I love The Godfather Part 2. It is such a fantastic movie. It is 10 times better than the first one. There are so many things that I think are better than this movie. And if you guys love The Godfather, I can understand that. But some people say Godfather or Godfather Part 2. I say Godfather Part 2 over Godfather any day. It deepens the characters. It makes the story better. It's just a better movie overall. And it's probably my favorite sequel of all time because I never thought a sequel could be as good as this was. And this really shows that all you need is just tell a good story and then your movie is fantastic. And this movie did get quite a few awards, which I am very happy that it did get. It won Best Picture, Best Director. Robert De Niro won Best Supporting Actor, which thank God he did, because he would not have been successful as he was, in Goodfellas, because I believe this was the movie that Martin Scorsese discovered. Well, not Martin Scorsese, but I believe this was when his career really started to take off, and this was definitely that movie, and I think it's fantastic. And there were a lot of nominations too. I mean, it was nominated for a shit ton of stuff at the Oscars, and that was fantastic. And I think what's very interesting about this movie is for the British Film Awards, Al Pacino won Best Actor for this movie, but he also won for Dog Day Afternoon. It really shows how great of an actor he really is and how great performances he makes. I can't wait to watch that movie next year. So overall, guys, please check out The Godfather Part 2 if you haven't. It's an amazing movie. I absolutely love it. There's so much more to it than the first one. I cannot wait to watch the final 3 movies for classic movies, and that's based on my review. Hope you enjoyed it. I know this was a long review, but you simply cannot talk about The Godfather Part 2 in 10 minutes. You just can't do that. It's not that kind of movie. You have to talk about it for a long time like I did, and I know this is becoming like my longest movie review ever, but I don't care. This is an amazing movie, and I will see you guys can tell probably my next 3 classic movie reviews are going to be very, very long. You can already tell. And that's basically for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which I cannot wait for because it will be for the mid-season finale of Pretty Little Liars, which of course will tell us everything we need to know ever. And I can't wait to see how that plays out. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.